shouldn't have to worry about them under my care. I watched them all weekend.
You really have been deemed the most hated woman in America. How does that make you feel?
I didn't know that. Actually, I feel a lot of love and support.
Jodi Arias and Chris Watts display prominent narcissistic and psychopathic traits. These traits result in very specific speech patterns. I've divided these speech patterns into 3 categories. For an explanation of important concepts in statement analysis, check this video. Link is in the description box below. Jodi and Chris use words that create a distance between them and their actions. Instead of stating directly what they did and how they did it, they use vague language and euphemisms. In light of the knowledge of what they've done, this makes them look all the more self-centered. Distancing language is a way of suppressing experiential memory. When people lie, no matter if they're psychopaths or not, they look for the most comfortable way of doing so. And the most comfortable way is the one that causes the least amount of internal stress. And the way that causes the least amount of stress is the one that evades agency and responsibility. Hence, distancing language.
I know the worst of Travis, but I still wanted him to be happy, and I still wanted the best for him, and I never wanted any of this to happen.
Any of this is unspecific, as we would expect from Jodi wanting to present herself in the best light possible.
What did you want to happen on June 4th, 2008? You went to his house. What were you expecting was going to happen?
I really expected us to just hang out like we'd always done, and that would be the day.
And it turned so horribly wrong.
It really did. Yeah. That's not what I was expecting at all.
Jodi says,
"That's not what I was expecting at all."
As if she hadn't made a conscious decision about committing the crime, and as if she's surprised. Also, she parrots the interview as it.
And it turned so horribly wrong.
It really did. Yeah.
She doesn't say I, which would have ascribed agency to her.
That if I can motivate one person to get out of a bad relationship, or if I can motivate one person to at least document what's going on, you know, something, then that's better than if they just went down the path that I went down.
She continues to downplay her crime.
Went down the path that I went down.
Also, the noun path indicates alternatives and not conscious and carefully planned decisions.
I've gone over this trip over and over in my mind and on paper. And even if there's still 20 some odd hours, even if you pulled over to sleep a couple of times.
Oh, did I tell you that I got stranded?
Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned that. If you slept for 10 hours,
I only slept for about
here
8
and
minutes.
here, it would still leave 18 some odd hours for something else. Okay. This is what people are focusing on, is this trip that you took. Because they're saying she left, she didn't get to till Thursday. Wednesday? That's when Travis was killed.
I did not go near his house. Aren't there...
I pulled your cell records. Your cell phone was turned off between here and here.
The detective mentions the verb killed, but Jodi's initial reaction is not to say she didn't do it, but that she didn't go near Travis's house. Her reaction is distancing. However, since she brings attention to Travis's house, his house is on her mind and therefore most likely a part of her experiential memory.
What does that show me?
Oh, well, I began... Oh, no.
Is there plenty of time for you to do that? Yes. And do I believe that you had come to visit Travis? Yes. I truly believe it. Your phone just happened to turn off from here to here.
Well, I didn't turn it off physically, but it died.
And then it magically, you found your charger here?
It was packed under the seat of the passenger side. And it was when I was...
When you were lost, you couldn't have maybe pulled over and found it? Or...
Well, I did finally start looking when I was stranded. I wouldn't have pulled over when I was lost.
She says wouldn't have, not I didn't. The expression wouldn't have conveys two things: that she allegedly doesn't remember, and that she speaks generally, not specifically. If she had said I didn't, her denial would have referred to the specific act of pulling over. But she leaves us with this distancing verb choice, telling us what she wouldn't have done, not what she didn't do.
The day she goes missing is the day that you guys have marital discord. I know we were having marital discord, and we had that conversation that morning, and then she goes, and we have no idea where she is, or the kids.
Chris doesn't mention the names of his family members. With very few exceptions, they're referred to as she and the kids. This is his way of disassociating from his guilty knowledge. He can't finish the sentence.
And then she goes,
He can't say the word missing, but interrupts and rephrases his own statement. He goes from
she goes,
to we in
we have no idea where she is, or the kids.
Associating with other people to not face this suspicion alone. He doesn't take ownership.
You shouldn't have to worry about them under my care. I watched them all weekend. I went to a pool party at Jeremy Lindstrom's house. It's like, I love those kids with all my heart.
Chris says those, not my. Those indicates distance, even though the pictures of his children are right in front of him. This points to guilty knowledge.
They're going to come home safe, correct? When you find the guy.
When we find the guy, they're going to come home.
Life in prison would be that's what I would think with two kids that are involved. I mean, like, if these kids are not alive, like, there's nothing you could do to cope with that, to make me cope with that, if those kids are not okay.
In this passage, it's as if he's talking about strangers. In relation to this, he first says there's nothing you can do to cope with that, until he changes it to make me cope with that. He puts vowel stress on me, as if realizing that he forgot to say it. In all interviews, he's inclined to speak generally, not personally, and syntactically, the me utterance is an appendix, not the syntactic focus. The language of psychopathic people lacks emotional dimension, because they're largely detached from their emotions. This doesn't stop them from trying to simulate emotions, and they often parrot other people's emotional words. Thus, an emotional statement like "I love you" is the outcome of learned behavior, not a genuine emotional experience.
How are you remaining so composed when this jury has your life in their hands?
Well, it was difficult. I think I was shaking, and I didn't know if anyone else would notice, but people commented on it afterward. I was almost convulsing.
Jodi starts with admitting that she did maintain composure, but then she says,
I think I was shaking.
Most people would know if they were shaking. When she says,
I didn't know if anyone else would notice, but people commented on it afterward. I was almost convulsing.
She now seems sure that she was shaking.
I was emotional, but it's like I have a lot of practice suppressing things, which isn't a good practice, but I utilized a little bit of that so that I could maintain my composure instead of getting overly emotional and not being able to proceed.
By adding the intensifier overly, Jodi moves the goalpost. The question was about being emotional, not overly emotional, whatever that means. She says,
I was emotional, but
but minimizes or negates the preceding statement. In this case, her claim to have been emotional.
I've gotten to see your mom in court every day, your grandma, your father showed up this week. There were a few times where you'd turn and look at them every now and then, but it seemed like it was few and far between. Why was that?
Well, I tried to remain focused on what was going on in the proceedings, so I didn't want to look back too much because I didn't want to take my attention off of what was important in the proceedings.
Initially, Jodi agrees with the observation that she didn't look at her parents a lot. Jodi says she didn't want to take her attention off of
what was important in the proceedings.
She seems aware of the unemotional nature of this statement, because immediately after the statement, she says,
But at the same time, I mean, I don't know how much you noticed, but I looked at them a lot because I don't know how much longer I'm going to see them, and I want to see them.
We note the subtle criticism of the interviewer.
I mean, I don't know how much you noticed.
By now, we're able to deduct that it's sensitive to Jodi to be perceived as emotional. And that's the thing. To her, it's strategy, not reality.
These are just a few photos. And I want to be careful not showing you certain photos, because some of them are very bad.
This is Jodi dramatizing her emotions in an unconvincing way. Let's revisit one of the passages in Chris's FBI interview.
I love those kids with all my heart.
With all my heart is a persuasive expression, overemphasizing the exact kind of love that Chris can express naturally and believably. Its pathos, appeal to emotion and pity.
I love these girls. I love these girls so much. And this picture right here, Celeste and Bella, those are my life. I helped make those kids. There's nothing in my life that means more to me than these kids. Nothing.
He's struggling so much to express true emotions that he constantly uses extra words to do it. Unnecessary language. Unnecessary language suggests that he can't even convince himself. We can see Chris using different tactics to appeal to Coda's emotions.
This picture right here.
Chris directs Coda's attention, manipulating him. But the picture's been on the table for a long time, so Chris isn't showing or telling something new. It's just a new tactic.
And you have not shed one tear over them not being around. Chris, I lose my 4-year-old in the store for 10 seconds and I start to go panic. Panic. I have not seen any of that from you at all. Help me understand that.
I love those girls. I would never do anything just because I haven't shed a tear. You get
no, that's weird. Is that weird?
Don't look into that like I don't love my kids.
Tell me,
explain
to me.
Chris is an imitator. Every time the agents bring up a particular action that he hasn't shown them yet, he immediately tries to fake said action. As he does here by sounding sad. We hear minimization.
Just because I haven't shed a tear.
Even though not having shed a tear is indeed strange. Notice how he phrases his quote-unquote love.
Don't look into that like I don't love my kids.
Tell me,
my
explain
wife.
to me.
He doesn't actually say he loves them. He phrases this in the negative, and it's prefaced with the imperative don't. So this is Chris trying to persuade Tammy, not Chris expressing actual love for his family.
So that should cause you pain.
It does cause me pain.
But I don't see that. I don't see that. I want to see the Chris that cares. Show us this Chris, not this Chris.
I'm not showing you that. I'm showing you the Chris that cares about his girls and his wife. Just because I haven't shed a tear, it shouldn't make you feel like that the love isn't there for them.
It's interesting that he says, I'm showing you. This shows intent on his part. Strategy, not true emotions. Just like Jodi. Furthermore, Chris prefers the mind verb no. This is particularly true for Chris's phone call with his private investigator. Here Chris considered ways of getting out of prison.
I'm looking at the things that I know what God put in front of me. I know I only have like a year left. I know that God has a plan for me, and I know I just can't sit here and just wait. I know there's waiting, doing nothing, and there's waiting that, but I also want to know like what action to take, because I have no, but I know He can teach me.
Subjects with reduced empathy prefer mind verbs, and they often place their rare feel verbs in unmotivated places. Instead of bothering with emotions, Chris and Jodi like to praise themselves. In the first clip with Jodi, we see her trying to fake remorse as she talks about and to Travis's relatives and friends.
I never meant to cause them so much pain. When Stephen said he read on Travis's 3x5 card that it said call Stephen, and that he never got that call, I know that's because of me. And when Samantha showed us the last picture that she took with Travis, I know it's because of me that will always be the last picture that she'll ever take with Travis.
Jodi's supposed remorse falls flat when 4 minutes later she advertises for a t-shirt with the message "Survivor," pointing to Jodi as someone who survived a toxic relationship. This is blame shifting.
Additionally, I've designed a t-shirt. This is the t-shirt, of which 100% of the proceeds go to support nonprofit organizations which also assist other victims.
She reminds the court of who the real victim is, according to her.
And Travis had many wonderful qualities, many redeemable qualities, and...
Redeemable presupposes that Travis was mainly a bad guy. Again, this plays into Jodi's victim role.
I don't know if you'll air it or not. If I could say one thing, I just really want people to document what they go through. Because if I had documented what I went through, there would be proof of it.
She starts out sounding humble.
If I could say one thing...
And then proceeds with allegedly caring about people in general.
I just really want people to document what they go through.
Jodi uses general problems to support and indirectly benefit her own case. In trying to come across as a victim, she completely ignores that she's the criminal in this matter. The fact that she's able to ignore this makes her look all the more unemotional, which antagonizes her intent.
And so, I mean, I get a lot of support mail. Hundreds and hundreds. I have like 200 plus postcards right now that I don't even think that it's logistically possible to respond to everyone.
No, what are they saying to you? Just give me an example of, you know, Joe Blow down the street.
Jodi, I listened to your testimony and I believe you. I'm in your corner. Or the best ones are when women write me and say, I was in a situation like yours before and I totally understand. Or, thank you for your testimony. I've left the relationship that I was in because of what happened. Things like that. That if I can motivate one person to get out of a bad relationship, or if I can motivate one person to at least document what's going on, you know, something, then that's better than if they just went down the path that I went down.
You must know all of America sits in judgment of Jodi Arias right now, and you really have been deemed the most hated woman in America. How does that make you feel?
I didn't know that. Actually, I feel a lot of love and support from people who write in and believe me and want to help me and want to be there for me. And I've received an outpouring of love and support from other people. So all of that, it doesn't reach me.
Throughout the interview, her face remains expressionless, but we can still see that she shows resistance towards this question.
Know that.
She visibly and audibly moves in her chair and then makes the claim.
I didn't know that. Actually, I feel a lot of love and support.
She even uses this hyperbole.
I've received an outpouring of love and support.
Obviously, the interviewer heard Jodi's pride and also Jodi's agenda with this interview, being perceived as a victim.
Like with her medications and stuff, I would always she had like 8 bottles of medications, so I would always get like her day and nights and kind of like put them all in that little, you know, flip open pill box, yeah, all that kind of stuff. And I would always, you know, be around her. I even went to her colonoscopy. And she said after that she knew that was like kind of a keeper. It's like, you know, who goes to a colonoscopy after 3 months with somebody? Right.
It's a little soon.
Well, she asked if she needed that ride. I'm like, yeah. She's like, you want to go colonoscopy with me? I'm like, sure, why not? Yeah. Like, I even sat with her while she drank that nasty stuff all day. Yeah.
Oh.
Chris depicts himself as someone who made sacrifices for his wife, mentioning the degrading colonoscopy has a ridiculing effect. It appears that Chris is still without real remorse. It's conceivable that he doesn't know the feeling. In the phone call to the private investigator, his sense of self-importance is apparent. First of all, he claims he's being divinely led.
And, you know, God directed me through little things like, you know, through the poisonous tree, the Brady law, and different cases that, you know, just it pop out of nowhere, but I know it's God put in front of me. And I see all these things that relate to my case. I just don't know, like, how to frame this where, like when I do this 35C, like, I've had this paperwork with me for probably a couple months, and I know I only have like a year left to appeal some of those Class B and C felonies at like a 3-year limit or 2-year limit. And I know that God has a plan for me, and it's to be in prison right now, but not stay here. Because he brought me here for a reason. But he also wants me to do something on the outside. I know I just can't sit here and just wait.
And second of all, he compares his story to the story of a biblical character.
Okay, just like in my devotional today, it was Esther. It was a door of hope. And, yes, the Lord was speaking to Esther. And she was saying to the Lord, I've led you to the wilderness, but I will plant in that wilderness vineyards. If you go through the valley of Kor, which is the valley of trouble, I will put a door of hope. So even though you're in a wilderness, you're going to plant vineyards in that wilderness. So you're in the valley of trouble, there's going to be a door of hope in that trouble.
All this falls flat when he himself reveals the simple truth that he just wants to get out of prison.
I just want to get out of here.
His recurring appeal to deity has nothing to do with the newfound way of looking at life. It has to do with Chris wanting to escape the consequences of his actions.
Are you telling me the truth?
I'm telling you the absolute truth.
Why should I believe you?
Because I'm a very trustworthy person, and the people that do know me, they know how I'm a calm person. I am not an argumentative person. I mean, you can talk to any of my friends, any of her friends. They know me. They know I'm a low-key guy that's quiet. I'm not about confrontation.
For more comprehensive information about deception, I again recommend this video. You can find the link in the description.